What's up, everybody? It's your boy Kata back on the tube. Today we're going to be teaching y'all how to properly use your rotation in MyNBA, right? And this year they got something different. It's MyNBA eras, but it's all the same stuff, right? So this 2K23, mind you, this is also on PS5 because the PS5 version is different from the PS4 version. So let's go ahead and get into it. So as you can see, I already got a bunch of teams. I've been playing with these different eras, right? It's pretty fun, but we're going to use a current roster, the Boston Celtics of this year. And they're a stacked team this year, man. They got so many people. They got reserves, They got all their starters are good. So to get to the rotation, you want to go into coaching, and then coach game plan, click all teams, and then this screen pops up. And in this screen, you can alter the times that you want to give them, and it'll automatically just, pick its own little spots to where to throw in the backups, throw in the starters here and there. I like to go in and just manually do it. So the way to do that is pressing the start button where it says rotation timeline right there. When you click that, this screen will pop up. When this screen pops up, you have different options by clicking left or right. You have paint mode, substitution mode, positions mode, and role mode. I usually just like to stick to paint mode. Paint mode is the easiest. You can just map it out yourself. So that's what we're going to go with here. So generally a strategy that I like to use, I have all my starters in, right, to start the game. Usually Marcus Smart, I'll probably pull him out a little earlier, probably at 6, because I want him to be in first during that second period, right? We'll probably get him out a little earlier in the third period too, and then have him in the entire fourth period. I want that defense to be towards the end. Jaylen Brown. So when you have a couple of studs on your team, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, usually what I like to do is alternate their times. Have one in while the other one's resting, and then have the other one in while he's resting. And so we're gonna give Jaylen Brown, get him out earlier in the first quarter, and then have him come back in towards the second in the beginning. And then that third quarter, I want him in longer, probably all the way to like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And then we'll pull him out for the start of the fourth and bring him in as that fresh-legged, person that can seal the game towards the end. But with that being said, Jason Tatum in the first quarter, I want him playing the majority of the first quarter. You know what? We're not going to have a gap right here for small forward because we don't have a backup small forward, right? And so I think what I'm going to do is bring Jason Tatum in towards the end of that period and get him out a little earlier, right? So one thing you guys need to know while you're doing this is that you see numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 12, right? That's the minutes max that should be in an NBA game, but it's relative to the time that you play with. So for example, I personally play 8-minute quarters. And whenever you play 8-minute quarters, what's at the halfway mark? This 6 right here, in your game, that would be a 4. So with Marcus Smart right here, whenever he comes or whenever he goes out of the game, it should be around the 4-minute mark of my first quarter. If you play 6-minute quarters, it should be at the 3-minute mark, right? That's the middle of the quarter. So it's all relative. I'm going to pull Jaylen Brown out. That's probably around like 2.5, 3 minutes into the game already. Pull him out, give him a quick breath while Jason Tatum continues trying to kill it, and then put Jaylen Brown back in towards the end of that third quarter. Then we're going to have Jason Tatum come in halfway through the second. And we'll have him play that first half of the third quarter, and then give him a good breather and bring him back in to seal it up during that fourth quarter. So for someone like Al Horford, since he's older, he has a lot more wear and tear on his body. So if you're thinking long term with your franchise games, if the older they are, typically you want to give them a little bit less minutes. And with Al Horford, I know he's still a great player even though he's really old. So I usually like to give him the cleanup starter minutes, right? So wherever the majority of your starters are going to be in, I would want Al Horford to be a part of that group. That way he's not out there on an island by himself expected to get points and get rebounds and all that. He'll have a good supporting cast in with him. So he'll have Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart in. We're going to put Robert Williams back in during the second half of that second quarter, and we'll give Robert Williams a decent amount of time. We'll go, yeah, right there. So about that in a regular NBA game, 8-minute mark. For me, that'd probably be around like the 2-minute, 3-minute mark. Just over half is when he'll be coming out. And then, with that being said, I usually never, because I mean halftime is right here, but halftime doesn't give you the huge break that's needed if you're playing extreme numbers. So if you're gonna play them the second half of that second quarter and then the first half of that first quarter, usually you want to limit them to just a half, right? You don't want to put Robert Williams out here because once you get that time, he's gonna get dead. So, and then we'll keep Al Horford out whenever the starters go out, and then Al Horford can come back in. So we'll keep Al Horford at 27 minutes. Give Robert Williams a decent little break right here. Another thing to consider, which I just kind of realized, is that they don't have a good center, a backup center. So I think what I'm going to do here is put Al Horford at center right here. And then we can give Al Horford these minutes right here. And maybe even do a little something with Jason Tatum going back up to the 4 spot. And so we'll do a small ball lineup to start that fourth quarter. We'll put Brogdon in at the 3, and then White in at the 2. And that's the one thing that's good about this Celtics roster. At least they have 2 really good shooting guards coming off the bench, so you can throw them around in different spots. Yeah, I want Brogdon to be that point guard too when Smart comes out in the third quarter. That way we can get some scoring going. Because in this gap right here, I usually always like to leave a superstar in during this gap. If you're playing a team that like LeBron or KD or Kawhi, there's a strong chance that you could go down early, right? And so this third quarter right here, usually other teams at that halfway mark, they always sit their starters, all their starters, and they throw in the backups. So that's why I do it this way, to where Jason Tatum gets a good amount of rest, or not Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown gets a good amount of rest so that he can stay in during that third quarter and go up against those backups. And who knows? I mean, if we're down by 10, that'd be an opportunity to say, hey, let's try to get this within 5 points to start the fourth quarter. So that's kind of just a strategy I like to try and use. That's why I like to keep him in later in the third quarter. We really don't have a good backup center, so this is going to really be small ball with Grant Williams guarding the center. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. And we don't have a good backup small forward. So you know what we're going to do with the small forward? We're going to put Jaylen Brown at small forward whenever Jason Tatum is not on the court. And so, yeah. So that should give us a little bit flexibility, a little bit more flexibility with bringing in White and Brogdon off the bench. They can share a good amount of load time. Just like that. And I like to always alternate it. That way they get rest in between. Because I play with my stamina on. A lot of people don't. Sure, you can play that way. To each his own. If you enjoy playing like that. I like to play realistic basketball. I like to reflect exactly how we would be in real life. So we're going to put Grant Williams in at that power forward right there, paired up with Al Horford. So that should be good defensively. If I were to put Gallinari in there, I think it would be bad defensively. Gallinari is not that good. Only thing he's really good at, in my opinion, is shooting the ball. So we'll do that. At point guard, do I want Peyton Pritchard in right there? Peyton Pritchard can for sure play down here. I think I'd rather give this to Derek White. We'll have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in during that time frame. They'll be doing a majority of the scoring. So I'm just focused on defense with him going in right there. So up here, I think everything's starting to get pieced together. We still got shooting guard right here. So we'll put, yeah. So basically Derek White and Brogdon are splitting time off the bench, both at 23 minutes, sharing that with Jaylen Brown at 29. Other than that, we got Gallinari having 2 more minutes than Grant. That's okay, I guess. You know what, let's do this. Let's just be a little bit complicated. I'd rather have Grant have those 2 minutes, just because he's better defensively. And then we have Pritchard with his 8 minutes. You know, I'm okay with that. He's not NBA ready yet, in my opinion. So this is how you set your rotation. These are just some of the things that I like to think about. You know, tailing up the end of the third quarter, tailing up the end of the first quarter, having Jaylen Brown in, you know, making sure that I have good starters in at all times during the game. And when I don't, the only time I don't have a starter in during this entire game is during this little 2-minute gap at the end of the third quarter. And so, you know, those are the times that, like I said, if you're trying to make a comeback, you would want a good player in. But we got Jaylen Brown with all this time right here. I just don't want to overcook him. I need him ready to go in that fourth quarter, right? So that's how you set your rotation, right? That's how you control what players you want to bring in the game during your game. Couple things to remember that this will only work if you have on your coach's settings, if you keep your substitutions on auto, right? If you do a manual, obviously you'll have to go and put them in whenever you want, which go for it. Me personally, you know, if I'm playing with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, and those are my top 3, and they're getting getting the ball the majority of the time, you're not seeing the Gatorade slogan that's going on with Robert Williams, right? So sometimes I don't focus on those things. You don't see who's getting tired on the court because you're too focused scoring with someone else. So that's why I usually just like to keep it on auto. I also like to play with my offensive play calling on auto so that you can see and keep this at full display too, so you can see automated plays that go in. And the thing is, like, everyone's like, oh, well, then you get, you know, you have to follow into the plays and the players are doing. You can follow the plays, but you can also branch off those plays. I mean, you can click in L1 and it brings a screener towards you. So you can always use that option during any type of play. So that's just how I like to play. But to each his own. To each his own. Happy 2K season, y'all. Let's get on that grind. Get those my careers up. You know what I mean? Get that VC up. It's time to start building up them badges. They're doing badges way different this year than they used to do before. They have like tier badges. So it's time to get on the grind. Start owning the park, baby. Thanks for watching my YouTube video. If you haven't already, like and subscribe for more content. I post a lot of different things. I'm a music artist. I post my music sometimes. So if you want to stay in tune with what the dub's on, go ahead and like and subscribe. Alright, have a good day, y'all.